For today's Monday makeup lesson, I'm going to show you how to create this eye makeup look and share some of my favorite tips and tricks. If you're new to the Makeup Chair channel and enjoy makeup tutorials, please consider subscribing by clicking the subscribe button below and turn on the bell so you don't miss any notifications. And if you're already subscribed, then thank you and welcome back. Now let's get started. Let's start by refreshing our knowledge of the parts of the eye. So we have the lid, which I think we all kind of know, the crease area, which is where the eyelid creases into the eye shape. But in terms of makeup application, it actually refers to anything from this point upwards, but just stopping at the brow bone area. And the brow bone area is just a thin gap right underneath the brows, usually right underneath the arch of the brows in particular. Now to create this look, I used 3 eyeshadows, 2 basic shades from my neutral palette and then a bonus shade. And I wanted to show you how you can use your basic eyeshadows that you use all the time, but then team them up with a palette that maybe was a little overwhelming. So this video is really about how you can use your basic palette and then team it up with another palette that maybe felt a little bit too scary to use. So let me start by explaining how to find your basic shadows. So for this look, we're going to be using 2 basics. We're going to start with a matte mid-tone. This should be at least 1 shade darker than your skin tone. So think of it kind of like your bronzer or your contour kind of combination. This is going to add the framing and shaping to your eye shape. And a lot of people refer to a mid-tone as a transition shade or a blending shade. So I'm going to be using this shade because it's at least 1 shade darker than my skin tone, and it's a nice matte tone as well. And then we have a matte contour. Now, you don't always have to have a matte contour. I just happen to be using one for this tutorial, but this should be at least 1 shade darker than the mid-tone. So 1 shade darker than the previous tone, 2 shades darker than your skin tone. I think I'm overcomplicating it, but I want to try and make it as basic as possible. So by using our 2 neutral shades from our neutral palette, we can then add in something fun from a palette that maybe we were a little bit too scared to try. And this is a great way to introduce color or shimmer or different texture into your eye makeup look. So I'm going to be using this gorgeous kind of moon dust, beautiful shimmer from this palette. And by the way, this actual tutorial, it can be swapped out for any of the other shades. So you can use the green or the bronze or that pinky tone. You can swap it out. I just happen to use the lighter shade as an example. So your bonus shade should have like a shimmer or a color or glitter or something a little bit fun. And, try to be a little bit more daring because you can make it work for you, provided you start off with your mid-tone and your contour in your neutral shades and then add in a little bit of a bonus shade. With all that said, let's move on to prepping the eyelid. Now, I like to start off by applying an eyeshadow primer all over the lid. This is going to give our eyeshadows something to hold on to so that they last longer for us. It's also slightly tinted, the eyeshadow primer I'm using, so it's going to create a blank canvas for us to work on because it disguises any natural discoloration that you might have on your lid. Now, of course, you can use concealer on your lids, but you might find that your eyeshadows don't last as long. They can kind of crease, and then it kind of undoes all the work that you did. So you're actually better off using an eyeshadow primer because it does a lot of the work for you, and it's just going to make it so much easier to apply, and it's going to last and look beautiful all day. And I'll link some of my favorite in the description box. So we're actually going to start out this look using the matte mid-tone, and I'm showing you on a bare neutral eye to start with, so we're just going to apply this all over the lid. And I'm going to be using a fluffy blending brush to actually apply this. Some people like using a flat brush, some people like using their fingertips. I like using a fluffy blending brush, but it's totally up to you. And this is the E26 by Blank Canvas Cosmetics. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to sweep this across the lid, and I'm going to very slowly build up the depth of the shade. So don't just apply a lot of shadow to start with, just build it up, and that way you'll get a really nice blend. And you want to just cover the lid to start with. Don't worry about anything else just yet. And then we can start to work on the crease. So remember, our crease is where our eyelid creases into our eye shape, and then it kind of blends upwards, and that's where we want to apply this shadow now. Don't apply too much on the brush, and you want to work this over and back into the crease line, and then you can slowly start to bring this higher. Now, bear in mind, your matte mid-tone is always higher than your contour, so no matter what you do in the next step, you have to make sure that your mid-tone is blended upwards because we're not going to be blending anything beyond this point. So I'm working this over and back using the brush. And then what I like to do with this brush in particular is I like to turn it. So this way it's more of a vertical motion and it's going to help blend everything upwards. And this is a great technique for hooded eyes in particular, but all eye shapes, but hooded eyes in particular because it helps to kind of camouflage that hood that you might have and recede it and push it back, while also creating some nice framework for the rest of our eyeshadows. I'm just taking my time to blend this, getting a nice soft blend, not applying too much to begin with. We also want to make sure that we're blending up towards the brows, but still leaving a small gap under the brows. Now, I didn't want to overcomplicate today's video, so I didn't add in an extra eyeshadow, but you could use a highlighter, and your highlighter should be at least one shade lighter than your skin tone, can be matte or shimmer. Usually I like to apply a matte shade with a tiny touch of shimmer. I just apply that just underneath the brows, but it's totally optional. I didn't do it today because I didn't want to add in any extra eyeshadows. Next, we're going to move on to contour, and I'm showing you on a bare lid, by the way. This has nothing on it, but I wanted to show you without the other eyeshadows kind of interfering. So I'm just going to apply this shadow across the lower part of the lid, right by the lashes, so about the halfway point of the lid. And we're going to put down the blending brush for a second and pick up a slightly smaller brush. So this is referred to as a pencil brush. And so the pencil brush is going to give us lots more control. It's going to apply that nice dark color where we want it without blending it out too far. So we're just going to kind of stamp this contour shade right across the lash line, keeping it on the lower part of the lid. Again, very slowly build this up. Try not to over apply. You're actually so much better as a beginner in particular to very slowly build this up. So keep kind of stamping it on there, smudging and blending until you get a little bit of depth on that lower part of the lid. Now you might be able to see a line between your contour and your midtone. That's actually a good thing, because then what we want to do is to take our blending brush and to very, very lightly sweep over the top. We still want to make sure we have some depth right at that lash line, but we also then want to very softly blend it too. So once you've applied that and slightly blended it, we can then use our metallic shade. Again, I'm showing you on a bare lid just so you're not confused. And we're just going to apply this on the center and then blend it outwards. So you can apply it on the inner corner and blend it inwards, but I like to apply it on the center using my fingertips. I love applying shimmers or glitters with my fingertips because they just kind of melt on the skin. And then take a clean finger and kind of tap it inward, so it's kind of buffing and kind of polishing it into the lid. Now you can swap this eyeshadow out for any of the other shadows in the palette or any shadows that you want to, provided perhaps that it has a little bit of shimmer, because you do want to add a little extra something to this. I'd love to know what eyeshadow you would choose as your bonus shade, so definitely let me know. I'd actually love to know what your kind of color combinations are you like wearing all the time, or are you ever scared about using an eyeshadow? I'm not usually one for using greens, but the green in this palette's actually really pretty, and I'll do a tutorial showing you guys it. But I'm kind of coming around to liking green now. So once I've kind of tapped that all over the lid and pressed it inwards, I then applied my mascara and lashes, and I also applied a little bit of shadow just underneath the eye. It's nothing too fancy. I just used the pencil brush and kind of brought this underneath and then just applied a little bit of the shimmer underneath as well. And that is the finished look. I hope that you enjoyed this one. If you did, then please hit the like button below. I'd really appreciate it. It helps me to better understand the type of videos that you'd like to see more of. You can also feel free to ask me any questions. I am here to help and happy to do so. And if you have any recommendations or requests, definitely leave them in the comments as well. If you'd like to continue watching, you can click some of the videos on the screen now that hopefully YouTube is suggesting for you. Thank you for watching. Be kind to yourself, and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.